monsoon season, but man, it is just dry as can be up here in Phoenix.
Man, not much happening down here in Tucson. It's so crazy is we had one practice moved from the stadium over to the indoor center because lightning was in the area, but there was no rain. It was just lightning was around. So we've been pump faked many times this monsoon, and I'm hopeful that turns it around. But I'm hopeful that it does not affect August 30th against Hawaii, because that would be so Arizona. Like, that would be so Tucson for monsoon to be totally weak, and then all of a sudden August 30th against Hawaii, we've got a weather delay. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But man, football. I mean, we are just over 2 weeks away from kickoff. It's exciting, man. We're getting down to it.
We absolutely are getting down to it. And Justin, you of course have been, kind of in and around. I mean, I even saw you. We can't even have a nice highlight clip on the Arizona Football Twitter account without you in the background giving us full emote status. In regards to, of course, Trey Spivey's beautiful moss catch that he had the other day. Justin's everywhere, man. But I guess, being everywhere, you've had good sights and sounds to what's going on in and around the football program right now. I guess, I was thinking about ending it here, but I actually let's just start it here. A lot of times in camp, Justin, it's pretty tough to gauge how good your team is, right? Because it's your defense going against your offense. Is the
Yeah.
defense dominating because the O-line is not playing very good? Is the defense dominating because the defense is going to have a really solid year? That's just an example. You've been around a lot of Arizona football teams with varying degrees of success and, probably expectations as well. Where do you think this one falls in comparison to, those other Arizona football teams that you've covered? Like, do you truly believe that what you're watching out there is the makings of a competent / good football team, or is it still tough for you to gauge even?
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to put it. Competent and competitive football team. And I think that's exactly what Arizona is going to be this year. I still have my concerns about the offensive line just because Arizona's defensive line has looked fantastic in training camp. Now, is that a product of Joe Salavea's coaching, which in my opinion is the biggest win of the offseason, getting him to come over to your staff, who is one of the best defensive linemen coaches in the game right now, and he's a beloved Wildcat and a Desert Swarm member. That was a grand slam hire. And so the defensive line, them really standing out in training camp, is that because of Joe Salavea / Danny Gonzalez, or is it because the offensive line is still rebuilding? We'll find out. And the offensive line, they're still trying to figure out that 5-man lineup. And it's very interesting because Ty Buchanan has been out there on that left side, and Tristan Bounce has been over on the other side. And like, the more I think about it, I talked to you guys about it recently about do you have Rhino play tackle, and then do you have Ty Buchanan be the other tackle and just have Tristan Bounds as that other guy? And then we talked to Josh Oglesby, the offensive line coach, and he said that the best 5 guys are going to play on that offensive line, and we just have to find that mix of players. And he said, it could be Rhino playing tackle, it could be Rhino playing guard, it could be Rhino playing center. He said that. We all know that Rhino's not playing center, so that leads me to believe, okay, Rhino at tackle, Rhino at guard. I mean, if we're talking about the best 5 offensive linemen out there, you got to put Ty Buchanan and Tristan Bounds, the 2 transfers, and then maybe Rhino gets in that at left guard. I don't know. And then you have kind of DeCambra at center, and then obviously Alexander Deuce as that other guard. But that offensive line, they have shown glimpses of having it together. And I think once Rhino comes into play and is with them, I think they'll be able to develop that continuity and kind of that chemistry. So offensive line, they've had their struggles, but I'm also like, okay, let's wait until it's totally complete. They got to stay healthy, though. I mean, if the offensive line, if those 5 guys that I just mentioned, if they can stay healthy, I think Arizona will be in okay shape. But that defensive line has been really impressive. Trey Smith has been getting to the quarterback. One of the biggest revelations in training camp over the last week and a half has been Malachi Bailey. And, Malachi Bailey was an FCS guy, one of 10 FCS transfers to join Arizona in 2025. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, in the spring, I didn't see much of Malachi Bailey. I really didn't. And we thought, okay, maybe this could be a miss on the scouting department, right? I mean, but this guy put up insane numbers at Alcorn State, like 28 sacks, was a first team all SWAC selection for the last 2 years. So you're like, okay, this guy can play some ball, but we're not seeing it in the spring. But now you're starting to see it in training camp. And, we talked to Brent Brennan about this, and he said, there's something about getting used to a new university, a new scheme, a new city, new culture. Like, there's just so much newness to all of this. And you're going from FCS to Power Four, not just FCS to FBS, but FCS to Power Four. I'm willing to bet that Arizona's facilities and resources are much better than the ones at Alcorn State, right? With all due respect, shout out to Steve McNair, a shout out to Alcorn State, but it's not even close to being what it is at Arizona. And then, Malachi Bailey's a guy from Atlanta and played at Alcorn State. What's the farthest west this guy's been? Houston? Like East Texas, maybe Kansas at Independence College. So the fact that he's all the way out here on the West Coast or down in the Southwest, trying to adjust to his new scheme and his new team, there wasn't an adjustment period. There wasn't a situation where a guy was hitting the ground running like a Javen Watley, right, or even a Quincy Craig. Those other FCS guys that were really impressive. Deshaun McKnight, who's going to be one of Arizona's starting defensive tackles. So there was an adjustment period for Malachi Bailey, but he's been one of Arizona's top defensive linemen in camp over the last couple of weeks. And we're starting to see more and more of that. Guys that were just, solid in spring, okay, and now they're really standing out. Michael Dansby, the transfer cornerback from San Jose State. Yeah, if you were to tell me who's going to be Arizona's starting corners, I would have said, okay, it's going to be Javion Cole and Marquise Groves-Killebrew. And now I'm like, those guys are going to be Aiden Garnes and Michael Dansby. Like, I have totally flip-flopped on Arizona's quarterbacks, but that shows the depth that they have at that position. So I've been really impressed with just the overall depth. That was Arizona's biggest problem last year, was 21 through 85. That roster just didn't have the experience. All of those guys that came back, they have that experience. And then they added a bunch of players that have legitimate playing experience at this level. So I've been impressed with Arizona. Now, you can only take so much from training camp, right? We'll see how that looks, but yeah, everything looks organized. Everything looks like it's heading in the right direction for Arizona.
One thing that you mentioned was the offensive line, and that was kind of a conversation I wanted to have with you today on this pod, because I was doing some prep for this show, and I was reading an article on SB Nation that they did a poll of their readers and asked their readers, who's going to be the most impact transfer for Arizona in 2025, and 38% in the winner was Kayana DeCambra. What are your thoughts on that, and do you kind of see him being able to have that, highest impact of any incoming transfer in 2025?
Totally. And, he is a very interesting case, because when he first got to Arizona, we didn't think that he was going to play center. We thought he was going to be a guard, maybe a tackle as a reserve player. But, Arizona and their options at center, Grayson Stovall, which I think is a solid player, but is he better than kind of DeCambra if he's able to snap the football? And, that's step one as a center. You got to be able to snap the football. If you can't do that, then you can't play. And kind of DeCambra spent a lot of time taking reps with Noah Fafita after spring ball and just kind of spending time with him. And he mastered that. So far, knock on wood, we have not seen any poor snaps from KD. But, I mean, he has been a guy that has stepped into that center spot. And it's the anchor of the offensive line. And, he is succeeding a really good center in Josh Baker. I mean, Josh Baker was really good. Obviously, he's not playing in the NFL right now, but I mean, he was a 3-year starter at that position and did it at a high level. And I think having him around has been really impactful for kind of DeCambra. Josh Baker has been working with the team as like a volunteer assistant coach. So, he's not on the coaching staff roster on the website, but he's around the team and he's been working with the offensive line. And I think kind of DeCambra having his his predecessor right there every day at practice working with him, I think that has really impacted him. And yeah, I think he's been a pretty solid center right there in that middle. So kind of DeCambra, yeah, no doubt, one of Arizona's most impactful transfers.
We had a conversation last week when we had you on, Justin, about who we felt would be the leading receivers for Arizona football, and we kind of all broke it down, debated. I believe you guys both took Chris Hudson. I took Chris Hunter. Feels like in the last week or so, just from reading your training camp notes in particular, that Chris Hudson has maybe started to turn it on a little bit. Like he's been kind of getting a little bit more of the big play type of showcasing, I guess, that we've been waiting for. And then you also have a guy like Nunu Watley, who maybe isn't even a starter, but every time I feel like I read one of your articles, Justin, you tell me that Nunu Watley caught a pass in the middle of the field and took it for a would-be 65-yard touchdown. So it's like, it feels like the receivers, you have the Trey Spivey catch, as we already noted on the show. Like he just continues to high point balls and make contested, really impressive circus catches. What are you seeing from this receiver group? And do you still feel confident about your Chris Hunter call? Or I guess you didn't really feel confident in the first place, so that's kind of poor wording. But would you still roll with Chris Hunter if you had to make a call today?
Yeah, honestly, after the last week, I went from Chris Hunter and now I'm on to Chris Hudson. Just because, the catches that Chris Hudson makes, he is a big time playmaker down the field. He doesn't have the height and the jumping ability like Tetairoa McMillan. T-Mac was a volleyball player. Super athletic, could jump up, has one of the best, if not the best catch radiuses I have ever seen in person. T-Mac is just a special talent. We all know that. And it's funny that Chris Hudson's now wearing T-Mac's number 4 jersey number. And I forgot who it was, but there's someone from the media here in Tucson at practice. They called him Mini Mac instead of T-Mac. It's Mini Mac for Chris Hudson. And, Chris, he's not like short. He's like 5'11" or something like that, but he's not 6'5", right? But, dude, he can make some impressive catches. And he's also got really good concentration on the football. So when he's falling down, he's able to still, bend his body and make these crazy catches as he's falling down. He made a couple of those in one-on-one drills, and he's been really impressive in team periods, making some impressive catches down there on some deep passes. So, yeah, Chris Hudson has been really the top wide receiver, because, Chris Hunter has been absent. Don't look too much into that. That's nothing. But Chris Hudson is a guy that I think could potentially be Arizona's top receiver. And I don't know if I said this last week or the week before, but, the one thing I thought was so cool about Chris Hudson, talking to him during media day, was that he emphasized this offseason to developing that chemistry with Noah Fafita. And they would go to Chipotle together. They would eat other foods together. They would go to restaurants. They would hang out and watch the NBA Finals together. And, he wanted to develop that off the field chemistry. So the on the field chemistry was obviously very evident. And that was something that he did when he was at Oregon, when Bo Nix was the quarterback of the Ducks. When Chris Hudson was, playing for the Oregon Ducks as a highly touted recruit. Obviously, we know Bo Nix was the quarterback there, and he's now killing it for the Denver Broncos. But when Chris was at Oregon, he made sure that, okay, I'm going to get to know Bo Nix very well. We're going to get to know each other off the field, so that way we can have that connection on the field. And he took that same approach with Noah Fafita, and so far we're really starting to see it in training camp. But, this wide receiver room is just so versatile from top to bottom. And, there could be looks where you don't see any of those big-bodied wide receivers in there, right? You could see those smaller guys, the 5'11" guys could be the tallest wide receivers out there, but they have insane playmaking ability. Javon Watley making those catches over the middle of the field. How many times did we see that outside of Tetairoa McMillan last year? So to see Noah making that connection with Javon Watley over the middle and allowing Watley to use his speed to make that burst, Trey Spivey to, go up in high point catches. Yesterday, he had an impressive one in the back corner of the end zone, got 1 foot in, did the toe tap and everything. It was special. And his ability to jump up and make those catches, he's going to have a lot of highlight grabs this year. And so all these guys can really just do a little bit of everything. And the offense sets these guys up to all make the plays and showcase their skill set. And that's the brilliance of an offensive coordinator of Seth Doege. He sees the skill set of these wide receivers. He's like, okay, how can I get Javon Watley out across the middle into open field? Chris Hudson, he has great catching abilities. How can I get him into a 50-50 situation? He does a great job of tailoring this offense around all these wide receivers. And, even though the offense has their moments, right, the defense gets the better end of the day. I think, the organization, the structure of the offense and Seth Dagey, showcasing those wide receivers, I think has been really special to watch.
One thing that I wanted to ask you about, specifically the wide receiver core, and something I've been mulling in my own head over the last 48 hours specifically is this going to be an Arizona wide receiver core where you have so many guys that are talented and in that same kind of level of production at the college level? Are you going to have a situation where there's a guy that just doesn't have enough food to eat at the table this upcoming year? Or do you see it as Seth Dagey somehow truly being able to utilize all of these receivers, at least in some way? Which reality do you think seems more likely?
Yeah, well, we asked Brent Brennan and Bobby Wade about the rotation and how that's going to look. And Brent was very candid, and he said, listen, I've been a part of teams that use 4 wide receivers in a game. I've also been a part of a team that used 9 receivers in a game. It really all depends on who's available, what the game is allowing us to do. And so they're leaving it open to, having a pretty deep rotation. And Bobby Wade says he's got a really good feel of the top 6 receivers. And I'm kicking myself for not following up. Like, who are those 6 receivers? Because the top 5 guys are, I think, very clear, right? It's Chris Hunter, it's Chris Hudson, it's Trey Spivey, Javen Watley, and Luke Weissong. Those 5 guys, I think, are your top 5 wide receivers for Arizona. And then you think about, okay, well, 6 through 9, who are some of those other players? You could look at Brandon Phelps, who had a really good spring. He's had a quiet training camp, right? He's not having the practices that we saw in the spring, but he's still a really good option at wide receiver. Obviously, a big body. Broke a bunch of receiving records at American Leadership Academy in Gilbert, and so he's an interesting piece out there on the outside. So Brandon Phelps is another guy that I think will be in the mix. And then, kind of staying with the Phoenix underclassmen, one guy that's been really impressive to watch has been Gio Richardson. Gio Richardson. And if you guys go and you look at his press conference from the other night when we had a chance to talk to him, tell me that's not Bobby Wade. Like his mannerisms, like I was sitting there like listening to him and I'm like, that is an 18-year-old Bobby Wade. And so I think his skill set and also just kind of how mature he is, he's going to be a guy that gets some playing time. And he's already, he's pretty built in comparison to like a guy like Isaiah Mizell, who has been dubbed the fastest player in the receiver room, but he's also 164 pounds. And I love football so much that they have a guy that's 164 pounds and then a guy who's 409 pounds on the roster. But Isaiah Mizell, he's very skinny. Even though he is the fastest guy on the team, he's got the speed rating in college football 26 and all that. He still needs to develop his body. But the thing is, with this 4-game redshirt rule, these guys can get their experience, whether it's on special teams, even in, games. Like, let's just say things go very well for Arizona against Weber State. Right? Isaiah Mizell can then get in the game in the 4th quarter, get those reps. So I think everyone is going to get their share. I mean, some of the other guys that I didn't even mention, like Devin Hyatt. I think Devin Hyatt has been really impressive considering where he was at the end of the season. I mean, he had a gruesome leg injury. I mean, it was bad. And then all of a sudden, he's out here in training camp making some catches. And then you still have Jeremiah Patterson, a veteran slot receiver who's now going into year 2 with the program. So there's just a lot of guys that they can lean on in this receiver room. I think it's not going to be the 4-man receiver rotation. I think a lot of these guys, they're going to get a legitimate chance at not just playing in games, but actually going up and making some catches.
Last year, at times, it felt a bit like a one-man receiver rotation until Chris Hunter kind of broke out in the second half of the season. But Justin, you obviously, wrote the feature article on Gio Richardson. Go check that out on Tucson.com. Great work as always. And is it fair to say that the program has fairly high expectations for both Isaiah Mizell and Gio Richardson?
Totally. And, those were recruitments that, Arizona, I'm not saying they sweated all the way until the end, But, they felt the pressure from other schools. There were other schools that really wanted those guys. I know that I think it was Notre Dame. They really wanted Isaiah Mizell, and Mizell was, looking at Notre Dame, and I mean, it's Notre Dame, right? It's one of the most prominent football programs in America, and so I mean, who wouldn't want to play there? So yeah, they have high expectations for those guys. Now, the good news is, even though they have high expectations for them, they don't necessarily have high expectations for them this year. And I think the leadership of Chris Hudson, Luke Weissong, Javen Watley, these guys are going into their final season of eligibility. Chris Hunter is a redshirt junior. He's got 2 years left, but he's been with the program now for a few years. So I think mentoring these guys, and I mean, and that also goes on the other side of the ball too, with the defensive backs. Like, you can see the veteran group, and then you could see these young superstars who are just below them, but you see the potential and you say, man, in a couple of years, these guys are going to be pretty damn good. I mean, they're already shown out in training camp as freshmen, but once they get a year in the weight room, once they develop, and then once they, get those game reps and practice reps, and they continue to learn from the players who are in front of them, these guys are really going to benefit that. And Gio Richardson and Isaiah Mizell, I give them a lot of credit because these guys are fearless. That is with everyone that is a part of this 2025 recruiting class. They do not care. Like, even these freshman defensive backs, they're getting chippy with these older wide receivers, right? And some of these wide receivers, they're, 5 years older than them. And yet they're still, kind of checking them a little bit. And the receivers, same deal. When they get in team periods, when they get into red zone situations, these guys are fearless, and they love to go out there and they love to make plays. So I think the future is very bright with Gio Richardson and Isaiah Mizell, and what their role looks like this year. I would imagine Isaiah Mizell, he might be a guy that's in that red shirt category, because like I said, he's 164 pounds. And so, he can play in 4 games and still redshirt. Gio Richardson, he might be a guy that legitimately plays this year for Arizona and actually gets in more than 4 games and contributes at that receiver spot, because he's very talented. Even though he's a true freshman, he is a very talented player. So, yeah, those two guys, future's very bright with them.
I was going to ask you kind of, Damon read my mind on that last question, but I was going to ask you in a different vein about Gio Richardson. How do you envision his time at Arizona going, right? Because you do have him potentially trying to get some experience as a true freshman, like you said, utilizing maybe that red shirt earlier on today's show. But if you were, Oracle Justin Spears, how would you tell us that Gio Richardson's time at Arizona could go? Because you're saying that mannerisms wise, he's mini Bobby Wade, and that the expectations within the program are very high for his potential production. But how do you see his time at Arizona going?
Top 2 all-time receiver in Arizona history, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, Bobby Wade was the Arizona's highest, or no, he had the most career receiving yards until T-Mac broke his record, right? So I'm not going to say that on the field he's going to be the next Bobby Wade, but I mean, the fact that he is 18 years old, and Bobby said that he doesn't ever have to pull him aside to coach him on things. He's going to Bobby to learn things. And usually, freshmen, they're not doing that. They're like, okay, I'm going to do what I'm told. I'm going to keep my nose down. I'm going to work. If I stink and I need correction, I'm going to allow the coaches to do that. But Gio is going straight to Bobby in practices and is asking, what can I do? What can I work on? And that kind of maturity and that initiative, I think, is a very positive sign for a young player. And so, he's not the tallest guy in the world, but he's also not a super short guy. He's a player that is very versatile, can play both the slot receiver, can play some other receiver positions as well. He's going to be a really special player. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if he's going to put up Bobby Wade numbers, but he comes from a really big time high school football program in Chandler Basha. I was looking at it. They went to the Open Division playoffs every single year that he was there. They won the state championship during his junior year, and they won a ton of games. And he was a part of the rise of Chandler Basha out there. They also had Damon Williams, former Arizona signee, who's now at Washington. Cole Martin, the cornerback, who's now at UCLA. He was a great player for Chandler Basha. But, he comes from a really good high school football program. And, one thing that I will always remember from the Rich Rodriguez era, when he was talking about recruiting players, like if you want a really good college football player, you go out and you get a really good high school football player. Don't overthink it. Just look at the tape and see how good they are. And Gio Richardson is as good as they come. And he had such a prolific high school career. And unfortunately for him, that was cut short to a very bad leg injury, kind of similar to Devin Hyatt in the Territorial Cup. And, it's funny is, he had never really had any injuries like that before. He had some bumps and bruises, but never like a significant injury. And he said, going through that process of overcoming the injury, going through the rehab, studying film, sitting in Bobby Wade's office, looking at the film and looking over the plays and the concepts of Seth Dagy's offense, taking those mental reps kind of prepared him for the field. And so when he's ready and he's unleashed to go and he's ready to go and he's out there playing, he knows what he's doing. He's got the mental reps, and now he's just got to play with confidence. And we're seeing that so far. So yeah, the start of the Gio Richardson era, very positive, and it definitely bodes well for Arizona's offense.
I got one last question for you, Justin. It is about one more position battle that is currently ongoing that maybe, I've raised some concerns about on this show. And it could just be the Arizona football fan in me. It feels like in our past, we either have an elite kicker or one that is unusable. And it feels as though maybe that no one between the two candidates we have here in this kicking position battle, that no one has truly grabbed it and made it their own. That there is a little bit of like, Michael Salgado Medina missed 2 kicks there, and Prasen, is that how you say it, Justin?
Tyler Prajun.
And I knew me and Kevin knew we were not getting that one right, but I didn't know I was that wrong.
Dude, trust me, we called Kedrick Riscano for months. Don't beat yourself up too much.
Prajun was far different than I even anticipated being wrong on. But
Prajun the odds of that name being Prajun on paper, like plus 3,600, I think were the odds on Bet365.
Should have taken it. But Tyler Prajun, Michael Salgado Medina, no one really seems to have made this kicking position their own. What are you seeing from the kickers, and is it a concern for Arizona fans going into 2025?
I wouldn't say it's a concern. I would say it's a concern for Michael Salgado Medina, just because they brought in this Australian punter, Isaac Lovison. It's not Isaac, it's Isaac. Those damn Australians and their weird names. But
didn't know that, and I said that correctly on the show the other day. So I'm going to give myself my gold star for that one.
Oh, kudos to you, brother. But yeah, Isaac Lovison, dude. Have you guys seen this guy in person? He is built, man. He is a big punter, and that's a Craig Nivar special, the special teams coordinator. He tapped into his Pro Kick Australia market, which is like a pipeline between Australia to college football. Utah was really one of the first teams to implement that and get the Australian kickers. Mitch Wishnowski was one, and then I think it was I forgot what his name was. Michael Dixon. Yeah, Michael Dixon was a punter that played at Texas for Craig Nivar, was a Ray Guy award winner, was a 2-time Big 12 Special Teams Player of the Year as a punter. And he's from Australia, and Craig Nivar recruited him to Texas. So Craig Nivar knows his stuff when it comes to Australian kickers. And Isaac Lovison, he's built like a linebacker because he plays Australian rules football. And, he's going to go down and make some plays and make some tackles on punt coverage. And, he can boom the hell out of the football, but it's just all about, finding that consistency. But I really like what I've been seeing out of him. He's got nice touch too. They did a coffin corner drill where they're trying to, get the ball inside the 5-yard line and bounce it out of bounds. And I think it was a couple practices ago or last week. He had a few that landed and bounced out just outside of the 2-yard line. And I was like, oh, that's impressive. Not only can he boom the football, but he's got some nice touch inside the 5. So Isaac Lovison has been very encouraging at punter, and Salgado Medina, he's also got experience punting the football too. It's not like he is bad, but Isaac Lovison has been impressive. And then Tyler Presume comes along, and his dad was a kicker at the U of A. So he's got that connection, has the family bloodline of kicking at the U of A. And he was a former Washington commit, was committed to Jet Fish and the boys up there in Seattle, and then flipped his commitment to Arizona. And I got to say, man, he's been impressive, been very impressive. And, Michael Sagano-Medina has the longest field goal of training camp. He knocked down a 52-yarder in training camp last week. But Presume, he made a 48-yarder. And so it's right there. And you're totally right, Dame. Like, Tyler will make 2. Michael Sagano-Medina will make 2. Okay, and the next time they do the same period, one will make 3, the other will make 3. Like, they're pretty neck and neck. But the fact that it's very close, I mean, Craig Nyvar pretty much left us under the impression that whatever Sagano-Medina does not do, he's going to be the starter at the other position. He's either going to be the starting kicker or the starting punter. And there's actually a chance where he's neither. And he's the backup for both spots. So Michael Sagano-Medina is definitely fighting for a spot right now. And you're right, Dame. It's definitely one of the most competitive positions for Arizona right now.
Well, he is the great Justin Spears. You can follow him at Justin E Sports on Twitter or X.com, whatever you like to call it. You can also check out his work for Tucson.com, Arizona Daily Star, Spears and Ali every weekday morning from 7 to 9 a.m. Justin, we appreciate you hopping on, as always, with us and keeping us up to date with everything going on with Arizona football.
Appreciate you guys. And you guys didn't ask, but the Cactus Court.
Talk about it later in the show, but we definitely should have got your thoughts on it. Turned out better than you possibly thought.
Man, that is so sexy. Man, that is just a sexy court. I mean, that is top 5 in college basketball, maybe top 2, and it ain't 2. Mm-hmm. That is just a beautiful court. And I speak on the behalf of everyone who has followed Arizona basketball over the years. Man, that's my childhood, man. Seeing that Cactus logo, I think about all the great days and the great teams under Lute Olson, and to see it back in its own unique way, it definitely it brought a tear to my eye, man. Made me think about the Salim Stoudemire days. So,
Justin, I know you're a big J. I know you're a professional, but did you vote on the court design when the Arizona Athletics account gave us the 4 options, and did you get your choice there?
I got my wish. That is exactly what I wanted. And
Kevin, we win.
Honestly, I think we all win. I mean, like, of the options, I think there was, to my memory, there was like one that I like at all, and I think it was the state outline one. But otherwise, of all the choices they could have chosen as the fan base voters or whoever really controlled that voter thing, they made the right choice, in my opinion, and they made a great choice. So, I mean, I can't be any more excited about this damn court. And Justin mentioned how it reminds him of so many great Arizona teams of the past. And I feel like it's a great year to have this come back to the court because you have so much high-level talent on this upcoming Tommy Lloyd team. Maybe you're trying to bring some real special vibes to Tucson, but yeah.
You know what? Real quick, I'll end on this. It's a different sport. And I know it's not quite the exact same situation, but I'll never forget when Arizona baseball moved over from Frank Sunset Field over to High Corbett. And that first year they were at High C, they won the College World Series. Maybe now that McHale Center's got a nice new look on the court, maybe we'll see a similar result with the Arizona Wildcats.
Love it. Fire me up, Justin. I'm taking that to the bank. Justin Spears said it. Write it down. Write it in Sharpie. The Arizona Wildcats cutting nets in 2026. But appreciate you, Justin. Thank you so much for all of your great coverage, as always, and we'll see you next week.
As always, guys. Love you. Appreciate you.
Yep. Much love for our guy. And Justin gets out of here quick sometimes, man. He really does.
He's a busy man. Honestly, I can't blame him. He's got deadlines to make. He's got features to write. He's, I don't know, got canes to eat. Or sorry, Max, but he's got brand redacted chicken fingers to eat. I don't know.
Kevin, let's go ahead and talk about some brands that we do love on the other side of this break here on the AZ Wildcats pod.
I mean, just the absolute most professional transition you've ever seen in your life. And if you want to see more professional, I was going to say transitions, but I'm not as good as Damon with it. Just check out the Phoenix
it's
Raceway.
It's over.
Just check out the Phoenix Raceway. That's all I got to tell you about, folks. The Phoenix Raceway is the place to be. It's championship weekend. They are bringing championship weekend in person to Phoenix Raceway October 31st through November 2nd. Tickets for Sunday's Cup Series, they always sell out, Damon. So now is your chance to make sure you get to see championship weekend in Phoenix, because they're taking it on the road. And you don't know when you're going to get to see it at Phoenix Raceway again. So make sure to go online, get your tickets, because like I said, the championship series is going on the road. You don't know when they're coming back to Phoenix Raceway. And the NASCAR fans are going to be out and about. Damon has been live in the experience around the NASCAR fans. And Damon, it's one of a kind experience, no?
It's a party. It's a party and a half, Kevin. They got food trucks, all types of businesses giving giveaways out there. You walk up to, it's the type of vibe where you walk up to a random RV and you say, hey, you want to shotgun a beer with me? And they do it. That actually happened when we were filming content out there. So real thing, real life scenario. Like the vibes are fantastic. You get to drink a lot, eat a lot, have a great time, watch some fast cars. Doesn't get any better than this.
Fast cars, understatement of the century. They're going about 200 miles per hour, and you're going to get to witness 4 champions crowned. So make sure to go online. Tickets, hospitality, and upgrades are still available. Get yours now. Not right now, but like this very instant, in the link in our show notes below.
Absolutely. And of course, if you're going out to the NASCAR, it's going to be nice and hot. Got to put on one of those branded Bills caps and keep that sun away, whether it's a fitted, a snapback, a beanie, a trucker, you name it, even a t-shirt. Branded Bills is the ultimate custom premium headwear and apparel, and we got a promo code for you. BBPHNX is going to get you 15% off your first order with our friends at Branded Bills. I got my Branded Bills hat on right now. I know you said you didn't love the state outline on the court, but my goodness, does it look fresh on a nice Branded Bills hat here. Kevin, I got that state outline. Arizona with the Arizona flag in the background. I mean, it is just beautiful, and it is so damn comfortable. We love Branded Bills. And like I said, use that BBPHNX code for 15% off your first order at brandedbills.com.
Well, Damon, we do have a ton of press conference clips to break down. We got Bryce James, Ivan Kharchenkov, Mabil Mawut as well. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. We also should probably break down a little bit of what Spears just talked to us about. Was there anything that stood out to you in particular you wanted to talk about, wrap up with Spears' conversation?
Maybe just the fact that he felt a little bit more confident in the kicking situation than I did. And it felt like that kind of stemmed from a belief in Craig Naivar, I should say, where, it seems like maybe he's done a good job of finding and weeding out the right players for his special teams units in the past. And I do think that, and I didn't bring it up in that question, but Justin spoke to it anyways. Like, it seems like Isaac Lovison is kind of a find. And I was getting that, from Spears's, kind of reviews and breakdowns of what he's seeing out there. It feels like we have ourselves a punter that we can feel comfortable with. And maybe he's not, Matt Ariza out there booming at 75 yards for San Diego State, but he could be, just a guy who you don't really have to worry about throughout the season, which is, that's huge, man. Like having special teams that just does their job, punts it 40 yards, makes it 40 yards and in on their field goals. Like, that can go such a long way in terms of, the ultimate record of the season. I'm still slightly concerned about the kicking problems, but hopefully, Justin spoke a little bit more confidence into me.
Yeah, no, I think the special teams, specifically when you're talking about punters and kickers, right? I feel like it's one of those things that really allows you to showcase where you're best at offensively and defensively. If you're spending a lot of time as a coach worrying about, well, do we have to get down to the 30 for us to be able to make a field goal? Or if we do have to punt, how is that? How much field are we forfeiting? Right, by having to punt here? Are we able to pin them where we want to pin them? It kind of changes everything from a coaching standpoint, how aggressive you can be, how conservative you have to be in certain areas of the field as well. So hearing Spears kind of put a little fire extinguisher on the smoke that was starting to build up here on our pod about the special teams, I'm excited to hear that, Damon, for certain.
Angel, type something random if you're kidnapped currently in someone's dungeon needing help. Because
Maybe Angel just got us on like in the headphones and the phone is in the pocket, but the screen is on and the screen is facing like this happens to me all the time in the supermarket. Like, you know what I mean? Like the screen facing your thigh and you're like liking a video and you're like, what? The audio's changing. I don't know, but yeah, maybe that's what's going on with that comment there,
and then
Damon.
we just scared the hell out of him when we name dropped him right here with the phone in the pocket, potentially. What? Oh my God!
In the middle of a Circle K, just like.
Drop a like on this video, guys, if you haven't done so already, and subscribe to the channel. We love seeing a bunch of people in the chat here, some new faces here in the chat, including Angel. Even though maybe Angel's been around for a while, but he just hasn't really been typing until he butt typed real quick for us here, Kevin. But
shout out to Matthew Moore in the chat as well. We love to see new faces all around. We got a super chat from Angel.
Oh my guy.
It's a blank super chat, but it's a super chat indicating that they are safe.
I'm just gonna assume Angel did this on accident as well. Like this was a butt dial super chat that he's gonna check his bank statement later and be like, what?
I like that you said type something random if you're unsafe or whatever, and instead of just being like I'm good, you sent a super chat but it was blank, and I appreciate the support. We appreciate the support.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you so much. Kevin, did you want to talk about the court before we move on to the basketball side of things real quick?
Yeah, let's just kick off basketball talk with the court. Arizona dropped that video that we all saw on social media, but more so I wanted to talk about the reaction to this court, and this was just a couple of tweets I saw out there. The Big 12 Conference itself throwing some fire emojis. Michaela Purdue saying how she can't wait to play her first game on the floor. I said it's beautiful. Matt Norlander, CBS national correspondent. Arizona now plays on one of the top 5 courts in all of college basketball as well. Emoy. Eye emojis all over the place with Emoy. Coach with questionable Wi-Fi, hopefully fixed. Brandon Chappelle, shout out to you. Becky Burke also says fire me up. So overall the reaction was great.
This is frying me, Kevin. I love the reaction little collage here. We of course have the conference we play in. We have the head coach of the women's basketball team, assistant coach of the men's basketball team, the equipment manager, who of course is the fan favorite in the fan base, the starting point guard and star player of the women's basketball team, a national CBS college basketball writer, and the great Kevin Thomas. I mean, it's everyone you wanted to hear's thoughts on the matter.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, I was going to pull like a more wide variety of people.
Yeah, like some fans.
I didn't want to go too far in the other way of just getting like, at XYZ 2007 19 on X that says this is fire. You know what I mean? Like I kind of wanted to go more relevant from a name value standpoint. People might know, but yeah, no, you are right. I kind of did pick the exact target audience that would be told like in a work Slack, like, hey, can you go comment on this new court reveal? And then all of a sudden Becky Burke is like, fire me up. But yeah, Kobe says, Kobe is impacted by the Matt Norlander of it all, saying CBS just picked our court as the best in the country. Wow. And the court is truly, truly beautiful. I love the court. It might not have been the one I voted for, but it's not like far from it. And I'm very excited. I think it is going to bring back those championship vibes. And I'm not saying that it means that Arizona is going to win a national championship because they have the cactus on the court. But when we're talking about, reminding fans of times where Arizona was truly at the top of college basketball and not trying to get back to the top and, being near the top, I'm excited for the feel that this court will bring to all the games, men's and women's, in 2025.
Just started a poll here in the chat, Kevin. Do you love the new court? Yes, or yes times 1,000. Feel free to throw your hat in the ring there and let us know how you feel about it. But
I would love to know the differentiator if someone picked yes instead of yes 1,000 times. Like, were they looking for yes 750 times?
Not quite 1,000, buddy. Not quite 1,000. But yeah, I'm fired up about it. Obviously, I committed voter fraud for it, so I was hoping that it would look the way that it did, and it was beautiful, Kevin. Here's what I love about it in particular is I love that, and this is why I didn't like my least favorite option by far was the cactus logo in the middle with the Arizona spelt out on the bottom, because I thought it was just way too busy.
Doing a lot.
Taking just it down a little bit, where you have kind of the skyline of the mountains with the cactus, like really looking natural onto the court, with just a regular Arizona logo, I mean, it just looks so good. And the way that it was conceptualized was maybe even better than I could have imagined. So I'm fired up about the court. And I know my guy David is here in the chat, Oregon fan. Like, in terms of like putting stuff on the court, you have there's the two ends of the spectrum. You got Oregon's court and you got Arizona's court.
You got classy and you got chaos.
And one looks sick and one is just insanity.
Yeah. Respect to David. That's our guy.
I do love my guy. I think David would agree. Unless it's just some like I think David and I for sure had this conversation before. I'm forgetting what his thoughts on it were, but the only way you could love it is if it's just some like, I grew up in Oregon. It's all I've ever known. I like that it, kind of pisses everybody else off. That's how I would actually I just discovered if I was an Oregon fan, I would love the court solely because it makes everybody else angry. So I don't know. David, let us know in the comments if you're still here.
There it is. He says Arizona's court looks better than Oregon's, in my opinion. Oregon's only looks good when you're there.
Fair enough.
It's too busy for TV. I've never been in there.
That's fair. That's a wrench that has been thrown into this conversation that we wouldn't have been able to speak to, right? Because maybe in person it is a lot less busy and looks a lot more just like you're in the Oregon vibe of things. But no disrespect to Oregon, I will say the Autzen is the coolest college football stadium I've ever seen a game in. So
yeah,
that's just this is just we're being objective here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. But Kevin, that was our court breakdown. Of course, be on the lookout. I'm gonna be dropping a short on our YouTube channel about the new court later in the day today. So be on the lookout for that on PHNX Sports YouTube. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. But we're gonna break down what Bryce James, Ivan Kharchenkov, and Mabil Mawut had to say right after our last break here on the AZ Wildcats pod.
Last but certainly not least, you know what I mean? This break, it means everything to me because money is very important. Money can't buy you happiness, but it can certainly get you freedom. And if you need to work on that financial freedom, Monarch Money is certainly the best way to go about that. Because our friends over at Monarch Money are like your own personal CFO. They kind of oversee all the goings-ons in your financial world and make sure that you are also on top of it right there with them. They make sure that if you have any new subscription services, they track that for you. Make sure that you're aware of that new recurring vendor in your ledger there. That's a good word, ledger. Monarch Money, if you don't believe me about the effects of Monarch Money, because I am a Monarch Money user myself, please believe the Wall Street Journal, who had them as the top ranked budgeting app of 2025. And like I said, don't leave money on the table. When you're making money, it's easy to get complacent. I necessarily don't know about making the most amount of money in the world and being complacent with my money I'm making. So I got to, if you're in my boat, if you're in Damon's boat, where we're counting pennies over here, you get Monarch Money because you can't afford to get complacent with your money. And Monarch Money will help you track it if you don't have the tools yourself to do it. It's not just another finance app. It's a real tool that professionals and experts actually love. Named by CNBC's top financial tech companies in the world. All these new words in the modern era, they're hard. They're a little combining the words. But like I said, use code PHNX at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year of money-saving tools with our friends over at Monarch Money.
I'm going to take my savings that I have with Monarch Money, Kevin, and I'm going to take them right down to the Wild Horse Pass Casino and try to see if I can double it, triple it, quadruple it, because you guys know how much I love to throw a little bit of a wager down. You know how much Kevin does. There's no better place to do it in the great state of Arizona than at Wild Horse Pass Casino or any of the other three Gila River Resorts casinos in the valley here. Guys, so great. It's like having Vegas in your backyard. Take a staycation there. Check it out for yourself. They got concert venues, for whatever type of music genre that you love, comedy, you name it. They have the largest sports book in the state of Arizona where you can get that nice paper physical ticket in your hand. They have all the live table games and slots. They have the cabana with the pools, or the pool with the cabanas, I should say, instead. And of course, they have all the dining options. Kevin, you're going to be down there for the Straight Game podcast live with Shaquille O'Neal. It's going to be Mike Bibby, Eddie House, Coach Ty Ellis, and Shaquille O'Neal doing the Straight Game podcast on August 16th later this week down at Wild Horse Pass. You're going to be checking it out, seeing what they got going on. You can get your tickets now at retail price when purchased online or by phone, but discounts are available at the box office only, and get yours today. Don't miss the rare opportunity to witness greatness live, unscripted, and straight from the source. Hear great basketball stories from some legends of the game. So cool what they got going on. All types of events always going on at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Check it out.
You mentioned, like, it's like having Vegas in your backyard. People are literally flocking away from Vegas because they want an experience that kind of is like what you got at Gila River, where you can just do you and you're not worrying about, damn, is that a $1,000 cocktail that I just ordered? That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's why I love Gila River. Like you said, I'll be there. Erica and Steven Prejean-Garner will be there tonight for a Mercury AMA as well. They'll be hosting it. So if you're a PHNX Mercury diehard or just a PHNX Mercury fan, first of all, why are you not a diehard? Second of all, get your butt out to Gila River and support Erica Day, Steven Prejean-Garner, and the Mercury.
Fire me up.
Damon, we're moving in to talking about players that are going to be on that new court in 2025. Bryce James, Ivan Kharchenkov, Mabil Mawut, all potentially could take the court in 2025 for Arizona. And they had their first media appearance yesterday in front of local Tucson media. And Bryce James, we did learn about his favorite snacks. We know that much.
Thank God.
I mean, that was what I was looking for. I don't give a damn about his role on the team, his development areas. Is he
What's your favorite
worried about the
Fortnite
spotlight?
skin?
Who's the best gamer on the team, Bryce? Is it you? All right, you got the nice on the sticks? Who's running it up? Those were questions that were asked and answered. And if you do want more of those clips, we can post them to our socials for you. So check out PHNX_Wildcats for that. But in terms of actual basketball stuff today to talk, we do have some clips from Bryce James. And I think it'd be best probably to start about his overall, his Arizona visit and sorry, I kind of lost track of my thought there. His Arizona visit and his first experience watching a game at McHale.
I came to the Duke game. So, when they played Duke, it was really loud. So, for me, I just like the environment. I like how loud they were. So, yeah, that's probably why. It was nice, obviously because, I've never been to a college game before, but it was definitely a nice experience because just seeing all the players there because, I knew some of them before coming here. So, all around, it was nice.
Never been to a college game before?
Before the Duke Arizona game?
That's kind of crazy.
Not even Bronny's?
I didn't even put that when you reacted that way
when you lived in LA.
Clip, yeah, that's kind of crazy. But he does know that the Arizona crowd does get quite rowdy. He's excited about that McHale environment, Damon, and I know that a huge part of why he does come to Arizona ultimately is to work with Tommy Lloyd, and I think that this is Bryce James on his relationship that he hopes to have with Tommy Lloyd and kind of the pitch that Tommy Lloyd had to him.
Me personally, I think, Tommy said that he's all about player development. So he doesn't really care if you come in here and you maybe not doing good your first couple of years. Basically what I said, he's all about development. So, just getting better in practice every day, getting stronger in the weight room. So, for me, that's probably what I'm looking forward to.
Love that answer. I mean, it's we all know that Bryce James is not a guy who's going to make a huge impact in his freshman season. Seems like he's pretty self-aware of where he's at as a basketball player as well, and that's cool to see from a kid that is the son of the GOAT. I mean, like it feels like it would be so easy to be like pretty conceited, pretty self-absorbed, pretty in your own world about where you are, right? Like, what do you mean? I'm Bryce James. I play on every team I've ever played on. Like, I start on every team and I get to take a bunch of shots, but he's buying into what Tommy Lloyd's selling, what Jack Murphy's selling, what the rest of the staff's selling. And that's, you're not there yet, but you're going to get there at this program. And as he says, multiple years, like Tommy wants people that can develop and hopefully Bryce James can be that guy.
Erica's a bit confused. You said he's the son of a GOAT. And she said, wait, he's Taurasi's kid. No, actually Bryce is LeBron's son. It's a whole thing. Do your Googles on that one. But you mentioned how he's focused on development and how he could have gone anywhere, but he chose Arizona. And I think it's in part because he wants that, quote, full college experience. So this is Bryce James kind of talking about what he wants out of the college experience and if he's worried about the spotlight playing a part while he's at Arizona.
Away from the spotlight, nah, that's not really what I'm focused on. Really just what they said, just having a full, college experience, not really caring about what other people are saying, just really just locking in and focusing on college.
I like that answer out of Bryce James.
He's just a normal kid, Kevin.
Just a normal kid. He's just like you. He's just like me. There's nothing different at all. But I was going to say there, Damon, about how when he first committed to Arizona, right? We got on this podcast, and I remember I searched up Bryce James, and I was scrolling through, and I found an old clip of our podcast where I was explaining how I think it's a BS idea that Bryce James would bring a circus to Arizona. I know that some naysayers of the commitment were like, well, what about all the attention that he's going to bring? And it's going to be too much of a circus. And I think for him to be able to get out in front of that media appearance, number one, and say like, I'm not really worried about spotlight at all. I know we're making a joke of it now, but I kind of just want to be a normal kid. Like I kind of want to get the full college experience. I want to be treated like one of the other freshmen on this team, and I want to work just as hard as the other freshmen on this team, and I want to, go through those developmental processes just like the other freshmen on this team. It's not going to be some special circumstance for Bryce. It's not going to be how can we coddle Bryce? How can we help Bryce along? Like Bryce James is going to get treated like the rest of the freshmen, and I think him wanting to be treated like any other college recruit, yeah. I think is really a good indication of where he's at mentally coming into this season.
I 100% agree with you, Kevin. And it feels, as I said, it's that self-awareness aspect. And we talk about that a lot on this show because I think it's important to people like me and you. Like, I think we've said before, like I've said in particular, people that are very unself-aware are like my biggest pet peeves in life. I love that Bryce James seems to know exactly where he is and what he needs to do to actually impact the rotation at Arizona. But obviously his brother, who kind of was on this path, Kevin, and ended up being a one and done and is now in the NBA for the Los Angeles Lakers, Bronny, he had his college experience. He had his taste of all the cameras and the attention while he was in college. And he had this to say from an advice standpoint to his younger brother, Bryce.
Yeah. Some advice that he probably would give to me every day, probably just staying consistent, be locked in, don't be focused on any other thing besides, just coming in here, putting in the work, going hard every day, putting in the effort. So that's probably what he would give to me.
And, I think that the answers, and spoiler alert, we're also going to play the clip about him giving the advice that LeBron has begifted him throughout his life. But I think the important part about the advice thing is you're never really going to get an answer of like, this is the one piece of advice that Bronny has given me. I think like
that'd be great for us.
It would be wonderful for us. But I think like the everyday stuff, like being around a guy like LeBron James, him literally being your father, you're going to pick up traits, work ethic traits, how to view the game, how to work on your game. What are the most efficient ways to develop? What are things you should even be looking for when you're looking at your own tape? Like that's the kind of stuff that when you ask someone what's the best advice you've gotten from this person, you're not going to think of that because it's everyday kind of stuff. And I think that when we're talking about a commit like Bryce James, the value he can bring to the program from a brand standpoint, from a notoriety standpoint, is all gravy. It's great. Fine. If he comes out and plays at all for Arizona, great. Fine. But I think the real impact that he's going to have on this upcoming team is his experience just around the game. And coming in as a freshman and having so much more wisdom than maybe the average freshman in his position at a 3-star coming into Arizona, right? Not even really a player that gets into Arizona on a basketball scholarship most of the time. I think him being around the elite of the elite, I know Bronny's not the elite of the elite, but you can say the same thing for him. They take so much tools, and I think that is what Bryce James brings to this team. He has so many mental tools. His IQ is so high for the game because he's been around guys like LeBron James, like Bronny, that are learning the game at a super high level.
Yeah, and he's been around really high-level basketball players his whole life, too. He plays on the same club team as Braden Burries, and, he strive for greatness. AAU ball is not – they're not recruiting a bunch of bums to come play for him, you know what I mean? So Bryce has been in and around elite basketball players his whole entire life. And now he, after this growth spurt that he recently had, he gets to kind of try to grow into that body a little bit more. But we're going to hear what LeBron's advice for Bryce was, right after we go into overtime here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. So welcome into overtime. If you are watching with our streaming partners, your road ends here, but head on over to YouTube and we will finish this guy out. As you said, Kevin, or as I said, Bronny had some advice for his experience in college. LeBron didn't have any college experience, but certainly has experience when it comes to just media attention, dealing with it, and just kind of how you can grow into the best basketball player in the process. So here's what Bryce's father, LeBron James, the GOAT, had to say in terms of advice to Bryce.
Yeah. For me, some advice that he's given me is probably just, obviously the same thing, just working hard, just coming in here, doing what you do best, and also just like just making sure that even if you're not having, some good days, just always have this stay positive mentality. So, like maybe miss a shot, you get a turnover or something, don't hang your head down, always keep your head up, just push through, just stay positive.
I mean, I think those are all really incredible pieces of advice to give to a guy in Bryce James's position. I think that workman mentality, the showing up every day, just trying to show your best version of yourself, become a better version of yourself, get, quote, 1% better every day. All these cliches, right, that actually are effective ways of looking at your life. I think it kind of shows to that self-awareness piece that he knows that just being Bryce James and having the James name attached to your first name there doesn't mean anything. It doesn't make you any better at basketball. It doesn't make you any better of an athlete. The hard work is what does that for you, right? And I think that the self-awareness of knowing that he's not going to get anywhere with basketball, especially at Arizona, where the guys he's trying to compete with for playing time are so high level, unless he's putting in the work, right? And I think that the self-awareness of knowing where he's at from a developmental standpoint as well is super important. And before we continue to break down these clips, here is Bryce James talking about where he thinks his developmental areas are right now.
Right now, I'll probably say defending the ball a little bit more, just trying to guard all 5 positions. Obviously I have to get stronger in here. So, that's something I got to look forward to. And obviously shooting the ball, I think that's one of my best aspects of my game.
Love that. 3-and-D, right? Like he's never going to be the star of this program. That's a fact. I'm sorry to burst anyone's bubble right now if they felt that was the case. But how he earns playing time is by being that supplementary piece. And in today's basketball day and age, that is shooting from the perimeter and defending multiple positions. And he said he needs to work on the defensive aspect of things that, and always improve your shot, right? Like that's never something even Steph Curry would tell you he needs to improve his shot. Maybe he wouldn't, but
he would tell you he's always working on it. I'm sure.
Yes. I think that, Bryce obviously is already a pretty good 3-point shooter, but it's something that he's going to continue to try to hone in on and make into from a strength to maybe like an elite skill set. So we talked a little bit about how his older brother, how his dad have maybe taken, given him advice and somewhat obviously like family, they're going to take him under their wing, but a player on the Arizona basketball team has taken Bryce under his wing. And here's what Bryce had to say on Jaden Bradley and his leadership.
Yeah, definitely Jaden Bradley. He's been around in the college scenery for a little bit. So, him just coming up to me, like even when I'm having a bad practice, he's always saying, just keep my head up, you're going to be good. So, just having JB around, it's been a good experience.
Is there really, I know Jaden Bradley, when, if you're not an Arizona fan, if you're not a Big 12 fan or a Pac-12 fan at one point, right, you might not know just exactly how impactful Jaden Bradley can be to winning basketball games. But I think that when I say, like, is there a better guy to learn from in this point, if you're Braden Burries or Bryce James than a Jaden Bradley? Mm-hmm. And obviously it's a bit, rhetorical. The answer is yes, right? There's probably some guy with higher level skill, higher level experience, but within reason, you really can't get that anywhere else. A guy like Jaden Bradley, who at that point guard position really tries to play it, I think, from the modern perspective, about as true point guard-y as you can be within the modern game. He's drives and passes, right? He can't really shoot much threes, but I think the experience that he has, the leadership that he shows, Arizona football invites the basketball team to their practice. Who do they have leading their huddle before practice? Jaden Bradley, right? I think that the leadership he showcases is going to help bring up the young guys and increase their actual guard abilities, their actual guard tendencies. We talked to Braden Burries about how, Jaden Bradley is helping him with more of the, I know it sounds silly, but more of the basic stuff that a college guard has to deal with, right? Getting the ball across half court is not something you really got to worry about until you get to college and they start throwing traps at you and they throw all these different things that you have to mentally solve and then overcome within the course of a shot clock, right? And I think that Jaden Bradley being able to help guide these elite young players, I'm speaking specifically about, Braden Burries in that case, but Bryce James as well, right, is really impressive. And I think it kind of speaks to the person that Jaden Bradley has become over his time at Arizona and obviously beginning in Alabama.
Certainly, Kevin. And I think that's a good place to kind of cap off the Bryce James discussion of things. Seems like a good kid, as Kobe says here in the chat. And seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders when it comes to not only, you know, his basketball acumen, but also just life in general and you know, his path and why he chose Arizona, right? Because you don't choose Arizona to get a bunch of playing time right away if you're Bryce James. You choose Arizona because you felt that this is the best program for you long term, and you absolutely love to see it. Kevin, confirmed just a normal kid?
Yeah, seems to be confirmed, just a normal kid. I mean, not to spoil the clip, but his top 3 snacks are all like candy kind of vibes, and
all fruit snacks.
Yes, literally all fruit snacks. And so I feel like, yeah, definitely just a normal kid like the rest of us. Apparently he's into Uno. Apparently the whole team is like super competitive into Uno.
Damn.
And I like Uno. I've never been a huge Uno guy. It's kind of like too much of a game of random chance with a little bit of strategy mixed in there for me. But hey, whatever gets the nets cut down at the end of the year, I don't really care. Play Go Fish for all I care. I don't give a damn. But yeah, like you said, and Jervis Williams mentioned here in the chat, really cool to see JB's evolution and responsibilities. And that's kind of what I was getting at, right? From the Jaden Bradley that walked onto Arizona's campus day one of his, you know, transfer to Arizona versus the Jaden Bradley now that is really, really got the leadership hat on. And it seems like a guy that if you're Murph, if you're Tommy Lloyd, you can recruit and be like, we're going to help you by having you next to Jaden Bradley. And that'd be a real bit of recruiting that you can use. And yeah, Kobe's right. LeBron is a big candy guy too. So maybe the apple doesn't fall far from the tree in that sense.
Do you remember the days of, guys, one of them has to leave this offseason. Who do we take, Kylan Boswell or Jaden Bradley? I mean, it was obvious after how that season played out, Kylan Boswell's sophomore year and Jaden Bradley's first year at Arizona, like transferring in, kind of earning himself more playing time, and then getting to the tournament and being kind of the only guy against Clemson who looked like he truly wanted the ball in his hands, even though he was coming off the bench. It was made pretty clear. I don't think Tommy and staff really had much quarrels over who they were going to take between those two, but I remember that being a narrative in this fan base of like, well, you got a problem who you got to pick at point guard, and you're like, do you really? But Kevin, we had a couple other Arizona incoming freshmen speak to media for the first time as Arizona Wildcats, including Mabil Mawut. And he talked, I know Bryce talked a lot about the advice he received from, particular famous basketball players, given, they're actually both his family members. But Mabil Mawut talked about another famous basketball player who has given some advice to him. And it happens to be someone that Phoenix Suns fans have become very familiar with recently.
Oh yeah, come on, that's my best friend. We initially started playing together, like when we started when I started going for the pickup games. I think also he was there along too. I don't know. It just so happened. I remember one night we was playing ones. Yeah, and that's how I got introduced to him. We just built a relationship from there. We both went to Solid Skills Sports Academy. Sports Academy down there in Uganda that helps kids, from grassroots levels to the elites. So they helped us through our training and everything, and got us opportunities to be at the NBA Academy together. And it's just always been, we have always been great friends since then. Yeah. It just told me, man, just stay ready, and stay ready and just stay in the moment too. Like take every moment for what it is. Don't look at what's happening in the future. Just take every moment for what it is and just build from there. Like keep stacking good days, and eventually you'll have a great college career for sure.
The pedigree that is surrounding this upcoming recruiting class for Arizona is like truly impressive. I'm sure that it's the case across like all of the top recruiting classes. If you look back on it, like you're going to have, if you are in the era of AAU, if you're an elite player, and I know that this is not Mabil Mawut's situation because obviously you're playing overseas in that case, but these academies, these AAU level games, like you create relationships with the most elite players in your age group, in your area. And I think that it's really cool that Kaman Maliwatch has ended up in Phoenix and that Mabil Mawut has ended up in Tucson. And they're able to continue that friendship, I'm sure. Maybe we'll even see Kaman Maliwatch at an Arizona game upcoming this year. I know that Kevin Durant has not made himself a stranger to Mikhail in the past, so I think that, the precedent is there for Suns to stop by Damon. But it is really cool to hear that Mabil Mawut, who has pro aspirations is the word I'm looking for. He has pro aspirations, and he has a guy who has walked that same path just a year prior to him in his ear, trying to help him out and stack good days, as he said.
Yeah, I'm sure he looks at his friend came on Malawatch and tries to draw a lot of inspiration from him, but he also tries to draw inspiration from a couple Arizona greats of the last couple of years. And here's what Mabil had to say.
To be honest, is the winning culture out here. It's something great. And I love winning. I love to be a part of a winning team, and Coach Tommy, has had a great success with international players, like for example Christian Coloco, Umar Ballo, to mention a few. And I feel I can be one of them guys, if I take my development right, for sure.
Yeah, and we talked about it when he committed to Arizona, when he had that quote about how influential that those two players' careers at Arizona was on him choosing Arizona. C.D. Gay said something similar, I believe, to Tommy Lloyd. I think he spoke to Tommy Lloyd's acumen for developing international talents and referenced Umar Ballo as well. The word is getting out, Damon, about Tommy Lloyd's international recruiting prowess and his player development prowess specifically. And Ivan Kharchenkov, I know Jervis in the chat was talking about him earlier, really wanted to hear from him. I was excited to hear from him. And he is another international player that Tommy Lloyd and Jack Murphy have been able to snag out of international waters. And this is what Ivan Kharchenkov, had to say about how his commitment to Arizona came to fruition.
So it started when last season I didn't play as much as I wanted to play. So I just, I was a young player, you always want to play a lot. And in Europe, it's just, kind of tough if your team is playing EuroLeague to, get some rotational minutes. So, I was talking to my agent, Tadas, and I told him, I want to play next year. I cannot be, 2 years without playing, a big role. And then he said, let's talk, let's consider some colleges. And, then we talked to some coaches, and we decided to go to Arizona.
Two thoughts. First thought, allegedly, Ivan Kharchenkov is 18 years old. The face is saying otherwise. You could say the same thing about, honestly, most of the freshmen for Arizona.
The voice.
The freshmen for Arizona, they're grown men in a way. It's kind of crazy the way that Tommy Lloyd has recruited this class of huge physical dudes to play for his basketball team. And, you mentioned, or Kharchenkov there mentioned the idea that he was kind of throwing out feelers to college basketball teams and seeing what he got back. And, and Jervis says that dude is 32 with a credit score of 780. I don't know if that's quite true, but this is what Ivan Kharchenkov very simply had to say about other colleges potentially pursuing him.
I don't really remember. I don't think it's really important because, now I'm at Arizona, so yeah.
Love how matter-of-fact that answer is. I don't really think it's very important because I'm at Arizona. It's just so, I know he's German, and that's not necessarily Eastern, but it feels so Eastern European. I know he has Russian heritage, of course, but he's mostly grown up in Germany and known more Western culture. But that's a hilarious answer from our guy Ivan Kharchenkov, and just all about his business, man.
All about his business. I mean, he's a professional basketball player. That is his qualifications for getting into the University of Arizona, right? Is playing at Bayern Munich, playing overseas, fighting for playing time with grown men, right? And being an impressive prospect overseas as well. Kobe says he likes Ivan already. People in our chat have been very supportive of Ivan Kharchenkov. I've been very supportive of Ivan Kharchenkov's skill set. I'm a huge believer in what he could bring to Arizona basketball, not only Arizona basketball, but what he could potentially do as a pro basketball player as well. This is what Ivan himself had to say about his potential role on the 2025 Arizona Wildcats.
My vision is, of course, to be the best player I can be. I have definitely to improve a lot, on my jumper still, to be consistent. I have to, adjust a little bit to the game here. And I want to go far with this team, even though I'm a freshman and not, here yet that long. But I want to definitely play a big role here.
Seems like local media yesterday, Kevin, were impressed by his shooting ability when they were out there at practice. He says he wants to improve his shot there, as we talked about already with Bryce James. You're always looking to improve upon your shot and work on some things, but it does seem like that's one of the aspects he brings to the table early. could be huge for him trying to earn playing time early if he can spread the floor a little bit. But ultimately, you know, another guy who is prioritizing his development, prioritizing, you know, trying to play for a coaching staff he believes in. And frankly, you know, he says earlier in there that he wanted to leave or was looking at going to college because he wanted more playing time.
Read my mind.
I think, you know, obviously almost everything's more playing time than like 4 minutes per game or whatever that he got at Bayern Munich last year, but he's clearly going to play and being in the rotation. This isn't a guy who they're going to shelf and try to, you know, really slow develop. Like if he's giving that answer, it's because when he's already on a team like Bayern Munich, it's because he wants to play at the highest level, but he wants to play at the highest level. And so he came to Arizona to actually get playing time. And this Dwayne Aristode, Ivan Kharchenkov, small forward battle, even ADO, that's special, man. I love it. Who's going to win it?
I don't know.
Crazy.
But we get to watch it, and I think that means it's a victory for all of us, right? And I think, you know, he's not messing around, right? Like, I think that, like, when you like you said, you read my mind, took my take right out of my head. Like, when he comes from pro ball overseas and his message to his agent is, I want to play, and I really want to have an impact. And he comes to Arizona, chooses Arizona, talks to Murph, talks to Tommy Lloyd about his role, then comes to some sort of understanding and agrees with it, comes to Arizona, and then for him to end that quote by saying, like, I plan to play a big impact in this upcoming year. I think that really shows where not only his mindset, but his game is at, right? Because he knows he's practiced a little bit with these guys, right? He knows where he stands in that locker room. And I think him confidently saying, I'm going to play an impact role for this team should tell you everything you need to know about where Ivan Kharchenkov is at right now today. And I'm extremely excited for that small forward battle, Damon. Aristode, Kharchenkov, ADO is going to be an unbelievable triple threat. You know what I mean? Triple threat match. Shout out to Erica. Shout out to our WWE fans in the chat.
And they're all different. That's the cool part, too. I think, you know, Kharchenkov can put the ball on the floor a little bit more and has kind of that really like stocky frame that we talk about all the time. Dwayne Aristode is like the uber athletic version. I think he's kind of the defensive stopper of the group. And then you have ADO, who's just kind of the shooting specialist that you know you put in when you need shots from the perimeter to get hit. So I love the difference in profiles too between the three of them. If you're gonna have multiple players that are similar caliber playing the same position, it's good to have different contrasting play styles so that Tommy Lloyd can kind of utilize them in a chess piece type of way versus the teams that they're, you know, gonna be more effective versus. So yeah.
And not only that, there are differences, right? But also there's similarities, right? Damon, like ADO can shoot, Dwayne Aristode can shoot, Ivan Kharchenkov can shoot. If Dwayne Aristode, like let's say Dwayne Aristode gets a starting nod over Ivan and ADO. If Dwayne Aristode's not given anything one night, you can put in Ivan Kharchenkov for his minutes, and it's not going to mess up what your game plan is. It's not going to change up how you have to play with Ivan in the lineup. They have similar prototypes to their game. They have similar standings, right, with the way they play. And I think that when Kharchenkov was asked about what he's going to bring to the team, physicality was something that he really earmarked as that's a way I can make an impact in 2025. And I've talked about it. You've talked about it on this pod. The physicality of this Arizona Wildcats team in 2025 is not being talked about enough because I think they're going to come out here and try to batter teams next year. Like, I really think that's going to be their goal, is especially on offense, is battering teams to the point where they're under the rim and you can get Koa Pete dunks, you can get Dwayne Aristode layups, you can collapse the defense and make it easier for ADO to get spaced out for a three. I think it's going to be a very, very physical Arizona Wildcats basketball team next year, Damon. And speaking on that play style in itself, here is Kharchenkov on what he identified as a recruit in terms of Arizona's play style and also some similarities between Arizona and the way they play overseas.
He said it's a little bit similar to Europe, so it's like more of a flow, but it's like a secondary offense all the time here. In Europe, here's like the first offense. So like just a flow, playing off instincts. So when I was playing in Europe, I didn't have plays for me. So everything when I scored was like off a flow or like off reading the game. So he said that's going to be the perfect fit for you here because that's all we do. So
that's all we do is flow. It's beautiful. I love that. I think what also helps Tommy Lloyd recruit overseas players is his play style. He has a very friendly play style, I think, for overseas players looking to acclimate to the U.S. game. I think that it's it's the American style, right? But with a lot of European flavor to it. And I think it makes it attractive for a guy like Kharchenkov, who's coming from Bayern Munich, to not have to, yes, still adjust, but not have to completely do a 180 in the way that you're being officiated, in the way that you're being coached, in the way that you're being asked to play the game that you've known for so long, right? So I'm all with it. The mere mention of the word flow has Erica Day thinking about Arizona football and what could have been with the Justin Flow project that never was. But yeah, 3 of Arizona's star freshmen coming into next year. And I do say star in the sense that you want to hear from them. You want to know what they have to say. Not in the sense that they're better than Cole Pete from a basketball standpoint or better than Braden Burries, but 3 guys that you really wanted to hear from. And we got to hear from them yesterday, Damon. They had a lot to say, and then we broke it down.
We absolutely did break it down. Kevin, I did want to touch on one last point before we get out of here, and that was that kind of physicality aspect that you mentioned. I think last year you saw in the Big 12 in the transition, Tommy Lloyd tried to really up the ante and the physicality that Arizona brought to the table. Like, I don't know about you. You can check me on this if you disagree, but I felt last year's Arizona team was by far the most physical Arizona team under Tommy Lloyd.
Yes.
In particular. They just didn't have the offensive firepower to truly be an elite team, but
not dynamic enough.
They brought it from a mentality and a physicality and a defensive standpoint. They just didn't have the true ceiling to really, like cut down the nets, as I said earlier in the show at the end of the season. This year, I think you're going to see that physicality combined with that skill set and that athleticism and the true ceiling that a Cole Pete and a Braden Burries and a Dwayne Aristode and Ivan Kharchenkov truly have. So I'm excited for that iteration of like, we're going to see the combination of skill and finesse times physicality in this upcoming season. And that's why I think that this team is the best team Tommy's had and truly could be a special Arizona basketball team.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up that point to wrap up this show, because one thing that we all loved about last year's Arizona team was that they were the gritty boys.
Yeah.
And that no matter what was happening on offense, you knew they were going to bring the physicality. You knew they weren't going to be outworked on any given night. And you knew that they were going to play, production aside, they're going to play just as hard in the first minute as they're playing in the last minute, right?
Yeah.
The effort is never going to waver.
Mm-hmm.
The effects, like what actually happens out there, the points and all that might waver, and you might have nights where you don't play a full clean game, but they played hard the full game every night last year. They were just simply not dynamic enough offensively to keep up with some of the best teams in the country.
Yeah.
This year that feels different, but it feels like you got even more physical, and I'm excited to see it because I don't know. The math right now is getting me to a point where I'm like, this is a preseason, like, national title consideration contender kind of team. And I don't want to get out over my skis and, let the rose-colored goggles kind of guide me. But it certainly feels that way when you do the math of what this team was last year and what they put together in 2025, right?
Yeah, no doubt about it. They're definitely a way more above the rim team this next season than they were last year. The one miss there being Henry Vasar, who played very above the rim and was extremely athletic, and I think fits in with this roster great, but obviously, just wasn't in the cards. Outside of that, I feel like at every position they're either the same or better athletically, and that's truly something to write home about when you consider that they got better from a offensive skill standpoint, they got better from a physicality standpoint, they got better from a athleticism standpoint. I mean, feels like a dream off season across the table. But Kevin, that was a great show breaking down all of everything that Ivan Kharchenkov, Mabil Mawut, and of course Bryce James had to say. Justin Spears, thank you so much for breaking down the news and notes and narratives surrounding Arizona football at fall camp. Kevin, appreciate you as always, my guy. You can follow Kevin at Kevo Posts. You follow me at Damon Dog if you appreciate me like Kevin does. That's the AWG. And you can follow us at PHNX_Wildcats. That's non-negotiable. So Kevin and I, that's like whatever. Maybe you like Kevin, you tune in for him. You hate Damon. I get it. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Please follow the beat account. It's a legal requirement. I'm saying so right now. And of course, PHNX Sports on YouTube and the main account as well. Drop a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel. That'll do it for me and Kevin today. We'll be back on a Thursday doing the last ever show in Studio A here at PHNX HQ2. But until then, peace out. Bear down.
And go Cats. LeBron on the pod? We got to make it happen.
We all silly like the mayor.